Hi, I'm going to go over section 3, which is going into what is an advocate. So we're going to go really just on the basis on what is it that we do, especially as you're becoming a volunteer um, advocate. This is just kind of really just going back down to phase 1, as you can say, on just understanding simply what an advocate does. By the definition of the dictionary, a advocate is a person who speaks or writes in support or defense of a person or a cause. Synonyms would be that promoter, supporter, defender, spokesperson. So again, this is advocate is very simply along the lines of I am doing something on behalf of something or someone. So you're really keeping the other person or thing interests in mind and doing what you do for the best for that person. So this is a code of professional ethics for victim assistance providers, aka advocates. So again, this is just focusing on the relationships with every client. So this is your duties or what you should keep in mind when working with clients and the relationships you hold within that. Respecting the interests of them is definitely primary responsibility that I mentioned before. Respect and protect their civil and legal rights is always a top priority, as we always like to share their rights and make sure that they know and they're educated in what they have a right to. Respecting the client's their right to privacy and confidentiality. Confidentiality is of most importance here. It's at 100% here. 100% confidential. You, of course, respond compassionately and empathetic. That's with everything, really. Listen to their statement. You just listen to their story, and withholding opinion or judgments and stuff, and making sure you don't add in your input. Doesn't ever matter what we think. It's whatever the client has said. Also, providing access to services to any client without attributing blame. That's very important because there's a lot of aspects of victim blaming with victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, unfortunately. So there's just a lot of I must be doing something wrong, or I deserve that, or the whole thing. And so that's very important to keep in mind when you are giving services, is to never give them blame, never be adding more blame to what they already feeling. In continuation, you always want to keep that self-determination. Self-determination is where the client decides it. They're the captain of the ship. They take the lead. It's whatever they think is best. It's for them to self-determine the situation. You serve as the advocate when requested, and you act on their behalf without regarding your personal connections and making sure you're staying in the rules of the agency. Clients need conflicts with another, so act in regard to one client only after promptly referring to the other. Observe the ethical imperative to no sexual relations or sexual contact with clients. Yes, do not have sex with your clients. Avoid conflicts of interest and disclose any possible conflict to the program or person served. And provide opportunities for colleague victim providers to seek appropriate services when traumatized. So sometimes some of those things and stories that you hear are really tough, and making sure you're there for your colleagues and one another. So this is a relationship with, again, colleagues, speaking of colleagues, and other professionals and the public. So you should, conduct your relationships in a way that promotes that mutual respect, public respect, improvement of service. Make statements that are critical. Colleagues give them valuable feedback rather than trying to destroy one another. Conduct relationships with ally professionals, such as they're given equal respect, dignity, of course, true respect, of course. Present accurately and fairly qualifications, use everything of clients, use appropriate channels to express opinions of these matters, taking steps to quell negative, substantiated rumors. Oh yeah, don't spread rumors. That will make a very unfun working environment. Again, sharing knowledge. This is a team effort. You will really see how trying to do this work by yourself can really take a toll, and be very important to work with one another and sharing your knowledge and help training each other and teaching, because you can have a strength in one area versus another, and that would always be helpful to share your knowledge. Providing that professional support and guidance. You are new, of course, when you always have someone you're teaching, or when you are teaching someone, and ensure that volunteers to have access, of course, to the training as you're doing right now, supervision and resources, because we always want to help y'all feel supported and have the resources that you'll need. And then, of course, just serve the public interest by contributing to the improvement of systems that impact victims of crime. This is your professional conduct as an advocate, achieving and maintaining a high level of professionalism, understanding your legal responsibilities and your limitations. As we'll go over later, we can't give legal advice, accurately represent your professional title and qualifications. Don't discriminate, of course, against any of these sort of statuses. This will maintain your professional conduct, and of course, that's breaking confidentiality. That point number is don't be revealing the name or anything like that. That breaks confidentiality. Yeah, it's a big no-no. And distinguish clearly in public statements your personal views from the position adopted by the organization. For example, you can't be like, I, from Project Hope, is saying that I think Project Hope believes that everybody should be like this. And no, that's your opinion, that should be disassociated from the organization. Can't be using this position to be securing monetary rewards or gifts or privileges. Report to the appropriate authorities, conduct, for your coworker, you go to the director, things like that. And report to anything of your conflict of interest that could prevent yourself from providing competent services. So yeah, those are the standards of professional ethics in regards of your conduct with clients and your conduct with colleagues and your conduct in the public eye, as well as your own personal professional conduct. So, all right, we're going to get into types of advocates. So there are two main types. We have system-based and we have community-based. So we'll go over what is what and which kind that you will become. The first one is a system-based advocates. So again, these are typically employed by like a criminal justice agency or law enforcement, for example. They provide as a primary contact for victims in that particular agency. So that advocate is the primary contact for that victim in that, pretend it's with the sheriff's office or with DA's office. They only work with the DA. And so they'll be that certain agency. They facilitate that victim's participation in the justice process. The focus is on access to justice systems and case information. So, for example, one of their duties is to inform the victim of their rights afforded under the VRA, which is the Victims' Rights Amendment. These advocates are not bound by laws of privilege. So they have to inform their victims that all information provided to advocate is shared with law enforcement and eventually the defendant or defense team. So yeah, they are very limited, and it's important that they tell the victims this so the victims can be aware that it's limited confidentiality and therefore limit what they share. And so they also make referrals to just appropriate area support services. But yeah, their primary focus is just like that crime case and supporting that victim underneath in like helping them navigate that justice process. And they serve victims of many different crimes. So yeah, this is the system space, and it's very different from the community-based advocates. So they usually work in an independent, usually non-profit organization. They provide comprehensive confidential services to any victims regardless of whether they choose to report that crime or not, or participate in the criminal justice process. So that's very important to remember for later on. But the focus is victim empowerment, restoration, and education. So that is a huge different viewpoint from systems-based advocate. And like one yeah, it's a very different lens. And also, one thing to remember is like these victims do not have to report, versus in the system space, they do have to report, and that's how they get even involved in the justice system in the first place. And so then that's why a system-based advocate would be there to be helping them. So yeah, and this is a very clear picture and just like differences between these two, as I had mentioned before. So system-based, it's only within that criminal justice systems, and services are specific to that, just to that victim. So the advocacy is specific to the victim, just moving to a system, as I said before, navigating, and like the services are limited just to the length of criminal justice. So like, there's a system being processed right now, and they're just doing that and getting the case done and just going to trial and all that. So that advocate will be working with that client until that trial ends, until there's sentencing, and then once that is done, so is that relationship, and that's done. Community-based, though, it provides service to any victim who report or don't. Anybody who just comes in, who says, this is what happened, and all right. It doesn't matter if they were part of the criminal justice system. They usually offer free services, and that's cool. That's like really different too. Is this not only to direct victims but secondary victims? For example, a mother DV comes in and she has like 5 children, and so a lot of the focus is okay, not just her but as well as the family, like the children, like what services do they need? So those are secondary victims as well. And so comprehensive advocacy, the 24-hour access, because we have that 24/7 crisis line, support groups, education, victim-directed advocacy. So it's just a very holistic approach to providing advocacy. There's no limitation. Doesn't matter if when the trial ends or anything like that. Victim decides, and when the service ended, they can be like, I don't need y'all anymore, and we'll be like, okay, sounds good. So yeah, but I mean, a lot of the similarities though between the two is that both of these advocates, system or community-based, they help ensure victim safety. Both of them can assist with CVC, which is actually crime victim compensation. It's when they receive money from the crime or whatever that happened, like compensation from that. Both, of course, provide referrals to any other social services, and of course, both of them main goal or in their contact with clients is to provide respect. So, and the main differences there is like that level of confidentiality. Community-based would be 100% confidential versus system-based will not be at all. And it's also who's eligible. Community-based, a lot more people are more eligible for those services versus system-based. System-based, you have to be victim in the criminal justice system already, like in trial, doing that to be eligible for those services. The types of services that are provided are also pretty much different. The system-based is not as holistic as the community-based, and the availability of services too is changes with each system, as you can tell. Actually, here with the advocacy is that being an advocate to someone is not being their friend, because with friendship it's reciprocal, it's casual, it's not really goal-oriented, and you're just being each other's friend. With advocacy, it is goal-oriented. It's not ever being a friend. You're not there to give them advice. You're not there to, give them advice, and they're not there to give you it. Let me go back to non-therapist roles. Sorry about that. Just keep skipping around now. So, one thing is also to remember is not as being a crusader. So we should not carry out our personal convictions that are not compatible with the client's frame of reference. So you can provide information regarding the cycle of violence or the power and control wheel, reassurance that domestic violence, sexual assault is like a societal problem, things like that, like not the client's fault and they're not alone. And listen to what they're saying. So being a crusader, sometimes you can probably do that unconsciously or subconsciously thinking I think this is best, or maybe my personal convictions lie here, and trying to sway them. You have to be very careful of what your convictions lie so that you can avoid things like that happening. But I just want to make that point there. So as we're going to move on back to the law. So what happens is with domestic violence, sexual assault, there's a lot going on about the law, right? A lot going on about with law enforcement sometimes, and different things on what law is and is not. So, what is unauthorized practice of law? So that is basically you're explaining the law to somebody. You're telling someone what to do in a legal matter. You're telling someone how the law applies in their situation, and you're like picking out certain court forms. So that's unauthorized practice of law because you know what? We're not a certified lawyer or paralegal or anything like that. So, what you could do, I mean, what you can do as a non-lawyer is telling someone that they might have a deadline, for example, and that they should check with the attorney, ask the attorney to explain the law, or the attorney to explain to you the law, so that you're able to like pass on that information. You can refer them to attorneys, go to court with them, but as emotional support only. You can't speak at all. Helping them keep track of what they need to do, and if requested and it's okay by like the director and the attorney, that you can attend the meeting with the client attorney. Again, you can never interfere with client attorney relationship. You can listen and take notes, but not offer opinions, of course. You can have clients talk to their attorney if they have concerns. Oh gosh, and that's very important, especially the bilingual advocate. And me as a bilingual advocate, I am the middleman between the attorney and the client simply because of the language barrier. You know, I translate whatever the client needs to the lawyer, and lawyer responds and translate it back. So I act as a translator in that aspect, but you can also help clients keep track of their appointments, keep them organized, giving them, we have notes, things like that, to just help them organize their thoughts and help them formulate questions if they have questions. Sometimes, what happens is an attorney can be a very feared figure, maybe, or they don't have a lot of trust built there and they just don't really know how to talk to an attorney or don't know how to share their story or really understand the process. And so, as advocates, we can help them phrase the questions, we can help them write down their thoughts that they're blabbing on and they're like really sharing about with you, and you can say, these might be very important to be sharing with the attorney, so how about we write things down, things like that. And so that can be very helpful to clients, discussing safety concerns with clients. As a non-lawyer, you can also just again provide information on the victimization, explaining domestic violence, for example, or just like the nature of such things, and you can provide information on client legal rights. We have a lot of documents or paperwork that present that as the client's rights. Again, providing emotional support to clients is very helpful, and they say that the client-attorney relationship becomes so much more smooth sailing and so much more comfortable when there's an advocate involved, because usually the advocate is the first face they see sometimes and gets that rapport going, and that could really help transition that move, and it can also help their case, because the better relationship that the client has with the attorney, the better it will better work for the client in their case, because then there's more trust, and then they share more information, and the attorney is able to make the best decision regarding their case. So, helping clients submit comments to court and parole boards, and provide referrals again to other services. So, how to be an effective advocate. So yeah, it's all about knowing the players and roles. It's way tougher than, it's easier said than done. It's a very long, it's a very complicated process in what happens in the court justice system, as you might know. But like effective advocacy is just understanding those roles. So asking questions and seeking answers. So you can provide clients with correct information to anticipate the next steps, and ensuring that the court knows that the client wants to enforce their rights. So if a client thinks that their rights was violated or wants to make sure that they have certain rights enforced, then you can go about and figure out where that filing that complaint is, or who to go to And that is effective advocacy in the criminal justice system, is knowing who to go to and being able to help the client find those spots, find that space, and do what they want to do. So, another thing is like alerting the DA that the client's present in the courtroom. DA is district attorney. Alerting the clerk that the client's present wishes to address the court, things like that, speaking on behalf if they request, or but there's a lot of limitations to that. I don't think we are actually allowed to speak in court, so always ask your supervisor before doing something like that. And we have done this in the past, helping the client prepare a written statement or letter ahead of time. So they have victim impact statements for sentencing hearings, and it's very important for the judge to read that just so they can have an idea of why, how the individual's actions had affect the victim per se. So I have personally helped people write their victim impact statement, and because sometimes it can be really hard to be writing down, or their thoughts can be very scattered and it can be all over the place, which is completely normal and completely fine, and helping them really hone in and make it chronological and making it make sense and helping them express themselves to their best ability. So, and just arranging alternative means. Sometimes the client is very nervous and doesn't want to go and doesn't want to see their perpetrator. That's a really big thing in court, and just finding out what resources there is, like what other alternatives there is for them. So that is how you can become an effective advocate in this sort of system. It can be very messy, very crazy, but just knowing who to talk to and what are the rules, and that's very important, because then that helps you be able to tell them. Because a lot of times, and I'm still learning to this day, it's very hard to understand it all. But the clients are like, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? And making sure to say, I'm not a lawyer. However, let's research it together, or let's ask your attorney together. So that's how you make sure you don't be doing unauthorized practice of law, because that'll be bad. So yeah, those are just some really things to remember as being an advocate and what that all entails. Again, so it's always never being a friend. You're not a therapist, you're not a lawyer, and that's actually in our written, the client's rights and confidentiality notice that they have to write. But there's a note there that really lets them know, like, by the way, we're not lawyers or doctors or counselors or therapists or psychiatrists, so if you need those things, let us know. We can try to figure out how to connect you to the proper resources. So that's effective advocacy, is making sure that they understand your role and that they understand their role, because this isn't a one-way track. This is working together. So and letting them know, like, this is how it is, and I'm not your friend either. No, we can't be hanging out after this meeting, or no, this isn't about me, this isn't about my personal life, this is about what do you need right now, and what are the services and resources that you need, and let's try to find them together. And then giving them the resources, sometimes it's not always a happy ending, as you can say. Like, you can give them the resources, you can give them the connections, the numbers, even calling the numbers themselves and trying to set up meetings for them. But in the end, if they don't go and don't do their part, that's on them. It's not on you. And so that's where that client determination comes in, because they need to put their own part, because we are not running the race for them. They are. What we're doing is we're hopefully trying to help them find the tools and resources to be able to continue on their race, so they can continue doing what they need to do and doing that. So yeah, sometimes that can get very blurred in the lines of how much work do we do for them. But if you feel like you're doing more work than them, that is not a good sign. So so again, speaking about different things like that, here are just the challenges and limitations in advocacy. And it could very well make everything much harder. But so in cooperative clients, we've had that before. So services are offered to those who want them. But again, if they refuse, we always will respect that right to refuse. Just simple as that. So sometimes they may start the process but refuse to continue, and again, it's their right, and we will never just be like, no, you should keep going. Again, even if you could say in a way, like if someone starts the services, and obviously our services will be very, very useful and helpful, and they just don't want to, maybe simply asking, well, could I ask why you would like to discontinue? And they might explain, and that's that, and you're like, okay, all right. And letting them know, all right, so just so you know, after this, like, is there anything else we can help you with? Maybe do you want resources to take with you along the way? Things like that, trying to help them feel supported, even if they don't want to cooperate. You have clients who would be uncooperative because they don't want to sign paperwork. Well, if they don't want to sign paperwork, then we can't serve them. So simple as that. We just let them know, all right, well, without your written permission, we can't do certain things, or if we can't do that, or just letting them know, this paperwork just helps us create your file or things like that, just to start this process and helping them figure that part out. But substance abuse and mental illness plays a very huge factor in making it very difficult to be an advocate, as I actually really have learned from personal experience. So again, just coming back, so clients who struggle with substance abuse may not be able to engage in a helping relationship with us as well, as easily as someone who's not using substances, and not, again, you have to always remember that non-sober clients cannot consent to anything like shelter releases information at all. And referrals to treatment programs may be the first step in what, to help these clients heal from them, but they have to want that. So substance abuse is actually a common occurrence among clients, and mental health as well. So mental health issues is very difficult to try to maneuver, but you have to know your limit. I'm not a substance abuse counselor, and I'm not a psychiatrist. So let's find people who are to be able to help you, so that's just kind of like the route you have to take. Yeah, it's been really hard when you have someone who's bipolar and someone who or schizophrenic or someone, so, just do your research. That would be very helpful in and helpful in you becoming an effective advocate in the space that you're in, and knowing that you need other resources to help you out on that, because of course we cannot deal with that. So it can be very difficult, though, as I've seen in the past, very difficult. We've seen crisis line calls of people just saying very, very absurd things, way out in the blue, just really crazy things. So of course you see that there's an element of mental illness in that, and so the best thing you can do, though, is listen, acknowledge them. Maybe, you don't have to validate them that they saw a purple cow or something. Oh yeah, I saw it too. You don't have to do that. That's, but just listening and being, I hear you. So, and sometimes trying to make a referral to the mental health center doesn't work. We tried, and we tell them, how about the mental health? No, they don't want to. Then, okay, that's it. And then trying to reframe it in a way that it can be helpful, because there may be previous trauma, or maybe because of the mental illness there's some sort of conspiracy or just disbelief that the mental health will hurt them or things like that. But trying to re-explain and educate. There you go. Always trying to educate them on, the mental health center has really helped many clients, has really helped, letting them not feel alone. I think we all need therapy, or just letting them know that those resources exist, and letting them know that they have the choice as well. So you should never tell a client, I think you're crazy and that you should go see a psychiatrist, so here's a number. No, they probably won't take it well. Maybe some will, but what you do is you let them know, this is what exists, and it could be helpful to you. It's your decision, though, to go or not. If you don't want to, okay, it's up to you. Just know that it's there. If you want, we could go together. I can go show you where it's at, so they can feel more supported. But they're gonna go get the help that they need, that we cannot help them with. So yeah, that's just one way of dealing with mental health or mental illness and substance abuse clients. And sometimes, I have had a client who's just shared, I think people have told me that drinking is a problem. People have told me. So then so I asked them, do you think drinking is a problem? They agreed and said, yes, I think I do. And I go, okay, so if that is a problem for you, we have an AAA group, things like that. So then bringing up that service there and letting them know that, that exists. And if you think that's a problem, this service might be very helpful for you in the long run, or this may be very helpful, or maybe you need support in this aspect, maybe you need that. So again, sometimes it can be very hard though to be discussing things like this with clients who are not sober, as we talked before, or having an episode, but just being there, listening, taking notes, and getting back to them when they are sober or when they are more stable. But yeah, it can be very tricky. It can be very overwhelming. It could be, you may feel very like, I have no idea what to do, and that's okay, because we're not certified in those sort of aspects to help them in that capacity. But what we can do is listen and hopefully help them get to the places that could very much make a difference. So another aspect is limited resources. So we do not duplicate services, so someone else can help them. Again, we always try to refer over. So our services are based on financial resources that are available, and so if we try to meet the needs of all clients at all times, then we're definitely don't have the money to do that. So we have to be very careful on when we could give money or not. But thankfully, that's not your job. It's not my job. That goes up higher up. Someone higher up makes those decisions on deciding, depending on the budget and how much resources we have. So we do, there's just depending on financially, it could limit the ability to provide services to certain clients. And so with clients, when they request a certain service, you just always let them know that, I cannot never guarantee a resource to them. You could always tell them, we have this, or possibly we could help with counseling, possibly we can help with relocation, for example, or like helping them move out, get out of the state, or things like that. Possibly. Let me talk to my supervisor first, and we can see what we can do, because it depends on the funds. And I always let them know it depends on the funds. Like, I'm not trying to cheat anybody, I'm not trying to false promise anybody. That's not how it goes. So I keep them in the loop, you can say, and let them know like the process is that I act as your advocate, of course, on your behalf, and present your case to the director, let them know what's going on and how that this service will be helpful, and then see if I get the approval or not. And sometimes I let them know, sometimes we get approval, but it won't be as much money, for example, that you're asking for, or things like that. So yeah, there's just a lot of limit in what we can do financially, and letting them know that will be the first step, so that there is no surprises or rude surprises later on. But that really does provide a challenge to advocacy, because when you don't have enough money and someone really needs shelter and there's no money for it, like, there's nothing we can do. And it's very unfortunate when things like that happen. But so we have to be very careful with when we can use things or when we cannot. So yeah, so these are just some challenges in advocacy. And this is a cute little picture at the end to make you feel better. Just kidding. But yeah, this is just the general gist of advocacy. As we reviewed, we went over system-based advocacy and community-based advocacy. We just went over the similarities and the differences, and just like our limits in that. For example, remember, we can't be that therapist, we can't do certain things, and just like the challenges as well of being an advocate, and how that looks like. So yes, I really hope that you learned, and if you have any questions, I will talk to someone later on. And thank you for your attention, and I hope everything made sense. So have a good day and take care.